Welcome back tuning into today's video. I'm going to do a bit of a July look ahead today, having a look at some of the longer range charts for July. We've got the JMA update here for the next month. Of course, we always have that on Friday, JMA Friday. We'll also have a look at the Beijing Climate Centre and the CFS as well, to see what the general consensus is that where July is heading. Difficult one to call again. It's proved to be a tricky summer actually. It's a funny old pattern. Neither one thing or another really. It's not hot, it's not cold, it's not sunny, it's not cloudy. It's very sort of strange. So what it definitely is though is dry, not having much rainfall. But other than that, it's a bit of a strange one so far this summer. July is looking quite peculiar as well. No real great consensus about where July is heading. But before I get on with the update, I just want to talk about advertising video ads. My page is at gazworthvids.com, and if you could press play on the video ads, you would be supporting gazworthvids.com. So thanks very much for doing that. So starting off with the JMA 500 millibar height anomaly flowchart for the next month, broke down into weekly periods. The first week period is the week that we're currently in, the 19th to the 26th of June. Of course, we're upside down, we're just there on the map, and yellow is above average heights, that's high pressure, blue is below average heights, that's low pressure. So we've got an area of above average heights in next week sitting to the west of the country, and we've got a trough of low pressure, quite a deep trough actually, sitting to the east, and the upshot of all that is that winds are generally coming in from a northerly, northwesterly or northeasterly point, depending on the exact orientation of these air masses on a day by day sort of basis. It's not that warm, it's quite settled to the west, but it's always cloudier to the east of that high pressure. There's always risk of showers in the north and east. I think that's a pretty good representation of where things currently stand in terms of the weather. We've had an area of above average height sitting to the west of the country. Now, to go through to the second weekly period, which takes us from the 26th of June to the 3rd of July, where we lose that area of above average heights to the west, we get this little sort of piece of low pressure below average heights setting up to the west of the country. It's not desperately unsettled by any means, it's not a deep trough, but it's a little bit more unsettled. We're probably establishing a westerly flow there. The trough to the east and the northeast is pushing off in towards Russia as well. That's lifting off a little bit. So I think everything's shifting really. Everything is shifting eastwards. We're probably bringing in a more Atlantic flow there at the very end of June into the start of July. That could be more unsettled, particularly to the west of the country. Not a washout, but yeah, I think we'll bring some weather systems through at times with that sort of setup. And then as we go through to the final 2-week period, which takes us from the 3rd to the 17th of July, well, it's still quite tricky to pin down what's going on here. We've got below average heights setting up to the south of the country, quite a deep trough of that low pressure, so that could be threatening thundery rain perhaps into southern parts of the country. Also got this little area of above average heights setting up in the mid-Atlantic. That could be a sign of an area of high pressure beginning to ridge in. And overall, I'd say it's a pretty difficult sort of one to pin down exactly what's going on there, but I would say it's not desperately wet, it's not desperately hot or cold either. It's sort of a continuation of this rather odd sort of summer pattern that we've got going, but I think for the south, with this area of below average heights threatening to the south of the country, there is the threat of bringing some thundery rain at times into a southern area. But conversely, this area of yellow here could be an area of high pressure that's beginning to form and move in off the Atlantic through the middle stages of July. If that happened, it could get a little bit warmer, but overall not too far a deviation from the average, to be honest, in terms of where the JMA is going. We have a look at the Beijing Climate Centre. These are broken down into 10-day periods, 500 millibar heights. Again, its first 10-day period is one we're currently in. It's taking us from the 16th to the 25th of June. And we see, well, we've got this area of above average heights again to the west and the northwest of the country. Got this very deep trough of low pressure sitting to the east over here. This below average area of heights in the 500 millibar flow over Scandinavia. So we've got a deep trough of low pressure there and low pressure down to the southwest as well. So again, that's a pretty good representation of where we're currently at. I think winds are generally coming from the north westerly, northerly or northeasterly direction, depending again on exactly how these air masses are interacting with one another on a day-by-day basis. But the winds are generally northerly around that high pressure that's sitting out to west of the country. Now, the Bayesian Climate Centre has been very consistent for the end of June into the start of July in bringing in a trough of low pressure of below average heights across the country. It's still there for the 10-day period from the 26th of June to the 5th of July. It's still going with this idea that we get this trough of below average height sitting up right over the top of the country. That is an unsettled pattern. If that was right, it would turn a good deal more unsettled than we've been used to so far this summer, and we'd be bringing bouts of rain in off the Atlantic. That is not particularly well supported from the JMA, the Japanese model, as we just saw. But the Bayesian Climate Centre has been very consistent with this. I mean, it sticks out trough up over the country really for the foreseeable future once it gets in. So the 10-day period from the 6th to the 15th of July still has that deep area of below average height sitting there right over the top of the country, meaning it will be very unsettled with the showers or longer spells of rain. Pretty cool as well. And as we go through to the final 10-day period, which takes us from the 16th to the 25th of July, no change there. The Bayesian Climate Centre still has that trough of below average heights right over the top of the country. Pressure's rising a little bit towards the north. Got some northern blocking setting up there around Iceland and Greenland. And the upshot with that is that we'd be extending in northeasterly winds, so that if anything gets cooler as we go through July. And it would also be a very unsettled month as well, with showers, longer spells of rain. That's a pretty grim outlook from the Bayesian Climate Centre, not supported by the Japanese model, and not really supported by the CFS either. Here's what the CFS is showing for July in terms of the 700 millibar height anomaly flow chart. It wants to set up this area of above average heights to the west of the country still. So this is like the pattern that we've got right now actually through June. It's seeing this going on into July, above average heights into the west area of high pressure and a trough of low pressure up over Scandinavia. What happens there is that the air goes around at high pressure and then comes down across the British Isles. So winds generally stay northwesterly, northerly, and we probably bring a lot of cloud, or continue to bring a lot of cloud over top of the high pressure. But it certainly isn't a very unsettled sort of scenario that the Bayesian Climate Centre is going for. It's basically the same sort of idea that we've had throughout June so far. And if I look at the temperature anomaly, it's going for a near average month, although hints of the little splotches of orange there around the place indicate that it could be a little bit above average, erring on the side of above average. That's because the high pressure is very close, and in the sunshine temperatures would be responding. Despite the fact the winds are generally from a northerly drift, but in the sunshine it's still enough to get us above average as it has been this June. Of course, nights could be quite cloudy as well, and that holds the minimum temperatures up. And for rainfall for July, it's not seeing any great deviation from the average. Actually, it's a little bit drier than average in the north. It's a little bit wetter than average perhaps in the south, but overall not a great deviation from normal. Notice how wet it is over Scandinavia. That's because we've got this trough of low pressure continuing to sit there. So the idea is still the same. The high pressure is out to the west of the country, the trough of low pressure is up to the northeast, and the winds are coming around that high pressure and going something like that across the country. So it's a difficult one to call exactly what's going on through this July. We've got the Bayesian Climate Centre at one extreme, looking at very, very poor. Would be a shocking July if that was right, but I think it's over the top. And then we've got the CFS at the other end, which doesn't look too bad, and the JMA is somewhere in the middle, and that's probably where we'll finish up actually. Maybe a little bit more of an unsettled July compared to June, but probably not too bad. But as I say, these are all experimental, these longer range models, so they can't be relied upon, of course. Just have a quick look at the generic chart for GFS for next week, middle of next week. Still got a ridge of high pressure extending through them, and this is the period where things could be starting to turn a little bit more unsettled as we go through to the end of June and start of July. That's what the GFS is showing this morning. That high pressure gradually drifting away to the east, pressure slowly leaking away. So by Friday the 27th, we've probably got some showers breaking out. This is Glastonbury period, of course. I'll be doing an update on the events page tonight for anybody interested in Glastonbury. The idea at the moment with models that things are turning more unsettled later next week. Not a washout, but yeah, we've got pressure's gradually sort of leaking away, showers breaking out at the end of next week into next weekend as we get through to day 10, Monday the 30th of June, so right at the very end of the month. Trough of low pressure starting to move in off the Atlantic, turning it unsettled. The ECMWF finally again, middle of next week, the high pressure is gradually leaking away to the east. Low pressure is slowly beginning to move from south-southwest. This area's low pressure over France is quite interesting. It has potential to bring some very wet weather into the south and southeast if it comes close enough, but at the moment the ECMWF wants to keep that across France and into sort of the Alpine region, southern Germany, but we've got to watch out for that. If that was to really wind itself up, that could bring a washout to Glastonbury, so that would be pretty grim, so we need to watch out for that. But on the eminence of Swan anyway, but low pressure is kept away to the east of the country. Got this ridge of high pressure extending through the British Isles, and as we go through to the day 10 period, which takes us to Monday the 30th of June, not too bad actually. The high pressure is still there from the Azores, exerting influence on the south, whereas the north is a little bit more unsettled. So even the next week or so, it's hard to pin it down really. We've got the GFS indicator, but it's turning more unsettled. The ECMWF keeping more of an Azores influence as we go through to the end of June. As I say, it's a difficult one to pin down. And going beyond that as we get through towards July, again, very difficult to ascertain what's going on. It's a tricky old summer, this one. The patterns are not typical. It's quite unusual. So just going to have to wait and see, really, how next week pans out. I think that's the key to it all, really. If it starts to turn more unsettled, that could set us up for a slightly more unsettled spell going into July. But, of course, if the high pressure manages to hang on and the ECMWF is very close to it, then it might not be too bad. So we get a broadcast tomorrow, so I've got to put some detail on next week's weather. Going to be tricky. And, of course, on the events page, we're looking at the Glastonbury weekend. But that's it for now, and thanks for watching.